God's first act, God's basically first thing that he did for the world was resting. He showed us how to rest, and then he created, and then he rested some more, and he showed us how to do that. That was our divine example. It sets an example for all of the world. Basically, as God rested, so humans are also encouraged to rest on the Sabbath. We know that, right? But this demonstrates that rest is not a sign of weakness, but it's actually like a pattern we can follow, which is beautiful. It's not just stopping our work for a day and resting that way, although that's part of it, like to get rejuvenated. Yes, that's a huge part of it, massive part. But it also means making our time sacred. So even while we're working, we can still be in a mindset of rest. And while we're playing, anything that we do, the time that we spend in our life should be sacred. We should be like mentally aware of what we're doing and how we're using our time. Setting aside time that's very intentional for things like worship and reflection, our relationship with God, reading his word, for prayer, and those things, they all make our life have a rhythm and a pattern that just helps us live as more of a whole person. That's actually so important, because if we live feeling fragmented and stretched out and thin and whatever, rest does not come easily, and we are going to become frazzled very fast. Our anxiety will go through the roof, and that is way too common, and I think it's time to get back to what we were meant to be. So I find it pretty fascinating that Jews observe the evening as the start of their day. Think about it a little bit. That was actually how God showed us what rest is. So when a day starts, according to the Jews and according to the way the Bible is written, the evening and the morning were the first day. So that means like when it's sundown, and when we go to bed, that's like the beginning of a day. And if we have a mindset toward that, we can be like, okay, let's have the house cleaned up, and it doesn't mean this is the way you have to do it. But like if our mind is toward resting before we start things, we are going to be in a much better frame of mind, like when we wake up and when we start to do things. So yeah, Jews start each day with a lot of rest, which is amazing. I think it's something we can learn from. Some mindful things so I think being mindful is huge when it comes to rest. If we're not thinking carefully about what we're doing, we're not going to be resting at all. It's not going to come naturally. But if we start our day with God, we also worship with others, like say go to church, and make sure that those things are happening regularly, being present in the moment, choosing gratefulness and joy, helping others, staying in the Word, immersing ourselves in the Word, learning something new, a physical activity often, so like regular physical activity, eating foods that I love and that also love me back, keeping clean and taking care of my body in the form of like skincare and being careful with that stuff. That's all things that promote a restful mindset. So what if we want to do all the things that we know are good for us, but they stress us out more than actually bring us rest? You know, we can go that route, and we can be like overwhelmed with all the good things we should be doing and not even know where to start. Well, that's not a good place to start, is to be overwhelmed. So I'm going to dive into an example, and because I focus a lot on skincare with my business, I'm going to go and do an example of that. So clean skincare, for example, getting overwhelmed with all the bad ingredients is very easy to do. If you're a researcher, this might not be a problem at all. Otherwise, if you're not everybody's a researcher, it may be overwhelming to keep track of all the things to avoid. But here's what I would suggest is find either an individual or a company. Find somebody who likes to research and knows what they're doing, or a company that you know you can trust and they care about your good health like you do. That could be a huge weight off your mind if you can find somebody that does the work for you, and you can just go to them with questions. And if you have a company that you feel safe with, and you just buying from them, you're getting good stuff. I'm gonna go back to rest and say that it starts in the mind, always in the mind. It even ends in the mind. So rest starts and ends there. How can you and I incorporate this concept today, make it practical, and right now? For me this morning, it started with looking out the window and seeing that gorgeous snow and the sun shining on it, and saying, thank you for a beautiful day, Lord. I just felt happy when I did that. Just an obvious turn of the mind toward beauty, toward God and nature. And then later today, it will include getting myself outside. Physical activity, I'm realizing, is not negotiable if you want a healthy mind that doesn't go into things like depression and sadness, especially in winter. So for me, getting outside and making my legs move, and I was told walking like I'm late. So I try to walk like I'm late a lot of the time when I'm outside, just so I can boost my mood naturally and get that vitamin D. I know that will make a big difference in my ability to rest.